Good evening, everyone. I'm Riley King, and welcome to the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. Let's begin. First up, where officer in good spirit after being shot. Suspect found dead, officials say. Officer suffers non-life-threatening injuries, officials say. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR News 9, Ray Brewer and Andy Hirschberger.
Pushed out the door when it matters most. For more than a decade, he's been right there, everywhere. And when American jobs are on the line, he leads the charge. ABC's World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast, and we thank you.
Officials just releasing that information at this press conference. Now, we can get a feel for what it was like earlier this morning as we listen to the emergency call.
205, shots fired, officer down!
Now, in the early morning hours, police responding in force after that distress call went out. According to officials, officers were called to Buckley Road around 1:40 in the morning for a domestic dispute. There was a report that a man was possibly armed with a gun and threatening to harm a woman in the home and himself. Police entered the home and were able to extract the woman, and that's when the Ware officer was shot in the arm. As police secured the area, the officer, 27-year-old Paul Lewis, was taken to Concord Hospital, alert and conscious. The standoff continued throughout much of the morning, and then shortly before 9, the news broke the incident was over and the suspect was dead.
There was a loss of life here this morning, and that is Mr. Chloe Garvin. We are certainly sympathetic to that. We are appreciative of that, and we do provide his family our deepest condolences and sympathies.
Very good spirits. He's in very good spirits. His mother is with him at the hospital. Concord Police Department responded to Massachusetts to pick her up, transport her back to the hospital so he could have a family member with him, as well as we have an officer from the Ware Police Department on scene with him.
Now, the Ware Police Department, we also learned in this press conference, does have body cameras, so it's possible down the road that we could get a look at exactly what happened inside that house on Buckley Road. The officer is scheduled to undergo surgery this afternoon. Ware Police Department says they're getting a lot of calls from people asking what they can do to help. Well, TD Bank has set up a fund called the Ware Police Officer Fund. You can make a donation by going to any TD Bank. Reporting live in Ware, Ray Brewer. WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And our thoughts and prayers go to that police officer and his family and co-workers. 17 children hurt in crash involving school bus in Salem, police say. Injuries not life-threatening, officials say. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Mike Cherry.
Good afternoon, Aaron. It is still very much an active scene down here in Salem, just off of Lake Road and North Broadway. You're going to look right over my shoulder here. There are still fire trucks and ambulances on hand that up to a minute ago were still administering first aid after an incident involving 3 vehicles left at least 17 children and adults injured. Just before 10:13, Salem Fire responding to North Broadway and Lake Road. Again, this vehicle incident involving a school bus, which was just taken away, a dump truck, and a passenger vehicle. 17 people were taken to hospitals in Lawrence and Methuen, Mass. with non-life-threatening injuries. The kids involved in this accident right now ranging between the ages of 9 and 11. They were on a field trip and were from 3 schools in Lawrence, Methuen, and Andover, Mass. Now, parents have been coming down here. They were allowed to pick up their children if they were uninjured. The remainder boarding the second school bus that you see in the parking lot right here, as I have Jason Medeski just pan on over just a little bit. It's a Lawrence Public Schools school bus. They're on that bus, and they're going to be taken to an unknown destination. But of course, you have to assume that they are in touch with all their parents, letting them know exactly where these kids will be allowed to be picked up. One happy note, the kids who are uninjured and the adults as well on board that school bus right now. They're eating pizza. A lot of them, when we walked by, were laughing, smiling. So some good news right there. Salem police say they are working with state police to figure out exactly what caused the incident. We'll know more information later on tonight. Reporting from Salem, Mike Cherry, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Corrections officer attacked in Boston on way to work. Let's take a listen to that video from WCVB, Boston.
Demand the most from your local news.
Breaking right now at 11.
Boston's most honored, most trusted, most watched local news. WCVB News Center 5, Boston's news leader.
All right, Todd, thank you. We have some breaking news coming in from Boston just now. A corrections officer is injured in an attack. The Suffolk County Sheriff's Department says it happened this morning as the officer, not yet in uniform, was arriving to work at the Suffolk County House of Correction. While in his car on Atkinson Street, a person apparently reached through the open window and struck the officer. When the officer exited the car, he was surrounded by several people who then began to hit him. The Sheriff's Department says the motive is suspected to be attempted robbery. The officer is alert and currently being seen by medical professionals.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Man accused of kidnapping woman in South Carolina, reportedly assaulting her on drive to Maine. Let's take a listen to that video from WMTW News 8 Maine.
We want to talk about the ups, the downs. We want to talk about who we are. People are people. We have more in common than we have different. Someone in Illinois is going through the same thing as somebody in Alabama. That's life. I love what TV can do. It's the power of sharing your authentic journey. So let's talk about it.
September 9th on Channel 8.
Police in Lewiston arresting a man they say kidnapped a woman in South Carolina, then beat and sexually assaulted her several times while driving to Maine. Dustin Beach faces a kidnapping charge. The alleged victim was found at a motel. Investigators say that Beach tried to drown the woman once and then beat her with things like a hammer and a cane. He denies those allegations. He also faces charges for another alleged assault in South Carolina.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And now let's take a look at your U.S. stock market and see how your U.S. stock market closed for this Thursday evening. And here's a look at that U.S. stock market for all of you, as you can see. Your Dow Jones Industrial Average closed in the red and went down. Your Nasdaq closed in the red, went down. S&P 500 closed in the red, went down. Gold closed in the green, went up. Oil closed in the red, went down. US 10-year closed in the red, went down. Euro/USD closed in the red, went down. And VIX closed in the green and went up. Dow drops 280 points, giving up big early gain after Trump says U.S. adding more tariffs on China. Stocks fell sharply on Thursday, easing a big surge from earlier in the day after President Donald Trump said the U.S. would impose an additional 10% tariffs on China imports to the U.S. North Korea launches another projectile, U.S. officials say. North Korea has fired at least one projectile into the Sea of Japan, a U.S. official confirmed to ABC News. And that does it for this Thursday evening edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a great rest of your evening, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for another newscast. And I'll have an easy part coming up in a little bit. Good night, everyone, and bye.